News Central now at this hour begins at the courts, where we understand that End Bad Governance protesters have pleaded not guilty to treason charges as the trial commenced this morning at the Federal High Court headquarters in Abuja. The charge sheet accuses the defendants of crimes including treason, conspiring to destabilize the country, intimidating the president, and damaging the Nigerian Communications Commission facility in Kano. The charges claim the accused acted with the intent to commit a felony to undermine the nation's stability between July 1 and August 10. The accused protesters are being arraigned before vacation judge Justice Emeka Nwite. Renowned human rights lawyer Femi Falana leads the team of lawyers to defend the protesters. Away from that, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu will on Monday hold a high-level economic discussion between Nigeria and China in Beijing. The president, who is leading the Nigerian delegation, arrived in the Chinese capital yesterday morning. Tinubu's arrival was announced by the special assistant on social media, Olusegun Dada, via his X handle. During the visit, President Tinubu is expected to sign several Memoranda of Understanding with Chinese President Xi Jinping aimed at strengthening bilateral ties in various sectors, including the green economy, agriculture, satellite technology, and media enterprise development. As chairman of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, President Tinubu will also represent the interests of the West African region in multilateral talks with the Chinese leadership. While in Beijing, President Tinubu will visit Huawei Technologies and the China Rail and Construction Corporation to focus on advancing key infrastructure projects such as the Ibadan to Abuja segment of the Lagos to Kano high-speed rail line. We now move to security matters, where the government has directed the Minister of State for Defense, Dr. Bello Matawalle, and other military chiefs to move to Sokoto State to tackle the menace of banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism in the northwest region. This is part of an intensified effort to restore peace and security in the area. Dr. Bello Matawalle stated commitment to flushing out Bello Turji and his gang, as well as other criminal elements terrorizing the region. The federal government said it is deeply concerned about the persistent threat posed by banditry and terrorism and are ready to deploy all necessary assets to ensure peace is restored in communities. Matawalle emphasized the need for urgent action against the terrorists to enable people to move freely. He assured the people of Sokoto, Katsina, Zamfara, and Kebbi states, as well as the entire northwest region, that the security forces would leave no stone unturned in flushing out the bandits. The Minister of State for Defense and other military chiefs are expected to supervise operations in the northwest and ensure the success of this intensified efforts. Earlier, Inko Taire Igbalibo, a security expert, spoke to us on this development.
The army chiefs to Sokoto, for me, does not solve the problem and cannot and will not solve the problem of banditry and terrorism. The military chiefs could be anywhere, and what is important is the kind of comprehensive strategy that is being deployed. So it has little or nothing to do with the physical presence of the army chiefs in Sokoto. If the Nigerian army wants to end banditry and terrorism, they have to develop a comprehensive strategy and see to it that the implementation or execution of that strategy is devoid of any political interference. And within a couple of weeks, there would be an end to banditry.
Still talking security, the governor of Delta State, South Nigeria, Sheriff Oborewari, has called on the federal government to tackle insecurity in the country. The governor, who was represented by his deputy, Monday Onyeme, made the call on Sunday while speaking at a special Thanksgiving by Joan Onyemechi, popularly known as Ada Anyoma, at the Mountain of Fire and Miracles Ministries, Asaba. According to him, Delta is relatively peaceful, but the federal government, as the controller of the security apparatus in the country, should do more to ensure the security of lives and property. Recall that Onyemechi, former federal lawmaker and commissioner in the state, was kidnapped on July 30 in her church in Asaba and stayed in the kidnappers' den for 10 days before she regained her freedom.
Delta State is a great state. This is the reason that we are witnessing the goodness of God among us as a people and as a state. The level of insecurity in different parts of this country calls for serious concern, and we urge the federal government, which has the security apparatus to arrest the situation, to do so. We thank our security men and women for the sacrifices they are making day and night for our country to be more peaceful. Our dear state Delta is enjoying relative peace. This is the reason we are seeing a lot of investors and holidaymakers coming into our state. We will continue to rely on God for our state to be more peaceful and for us not to experience any of the incidents again.
Away from security matters, more than 10,000 people have been displaced and farmlands and properties worth millions of naira have been destroyed following weeks of intense rainfall in Gumi local government area, Zamfara state. Emir of Gumi, Hassan Lawal, made this known during an on-the-spot assessment visit by Governor Dauda Lawal. According to the Emir, more than 10,000 people have been affected. The governor sympathized with the flood victims and announced an immediate relief package, including 10,000 bags of assorted grains, mosquito nets, and blankets. He also pledged to address long-term flood management by constructing new drainage systems, repairing existing dams, and potentially building additional ones to prevent future disasters. To further discuss this, I'm joined by Aaron John, Executive Director, Center for Climate Action, Innovation and Engagement. Hello, Aaron. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Good afternoon, Dashen, and thanks for having me.
All right. So what role do you think climate change has played in the recent flooding in Zamfara state? Are we seeing a trend of more frequent and intense flooding events in Nigeria?
Yes, we are, and the world over, because climate change increases temperature and therefore increases the amount of moisture that is evaporated into the atmosphere. And when the temps are right, this comes back as heavy rainfall and more frequent rainfall. And that's what we are seeing in Zamfara and other places in Nigeria. Now, the problem really is not about that. It's just about how vulnerable places like Zamfara and other states in Nigeria could be to these intense and all of a sudden kind of weather events where you see that the state is not able to drain the amount of rainfall that is being received. Zamfara, for example, have a couple of drains, rivers, which are tributaries to Sokoto, for example. So how fast and efficient can this excess water drain out of during excess rainfall is what causes the kind of floods that we are seeing in Zamfara and the rest. So, of course, there's climate change, but then again, social, economic development and infrastructural development of the state and region also plays a huge role in how vulnerable a particular location can be to the adverse effect of climate change.
All right, now speaking of vulnerability, how can communities in flood-prone areas adapt to the increasing risk of flooding? I'm asking what measures can be taken to reduce the impact, especially on farmlands, properties, and also displacement, to avoid displacement of people?
It's sad to say, but local communities have to be the first place where we have to build resilience. Because as we've seen over the years, this is not the first time Zamfara is flooding, for example, right? But at the federal level, at the state level, at the local government level, the response have always been palliative responses and providing relief materials. So we need to increase the capacity of local actors and the local community as they are the first respondents in these situations to be able to spot and respond effectively. We need to be able to train them on how to spot early warning signs for flooding. We need to be able to also increase their capacity to retrofit infrastructure and move their houses, elevate their houses to be able to, withstand this excess runoff when we have them. Other things that we can also do as well is also be able to provide safety nets to be able to help recovery. We see that there's 100 million fund that has been released to the victims of flood, but this sort of response only go to, show that we don't really understand what is really needed. After the grain is consumed, what else? Farmlands are still there. So irrigation is one. The practice of regenerative sustainable agriculture is another one. Another way we can help farmlands, to be able to practice a more sustainable farming practices. Drainage also cannot be overemphasized. We need to be able to build effectively and then ensure that drainage is a huge part of planning and planning controls. So I think those are just a few steps that we can take into building resilience for communities.
All right, we do hope that these steps, would be able to prepare and protect these vulnerable communities from the effects of flooding. But thank you so much, Aaron, for speaking to us on this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for staying tuned. The 19 medical students and one doctor of the universities of Jos and Maiduguri kidnapped by unknown gunmen earlier this month and later freed after 9 days in captivity have returned to their various universities. The medical students were kidnapped in Benue State, Nigeria, while on their way for the Federation of Catholic Medical and Dental Students annual conference. News Central's Chizoba Nyongwe in Jos, Plateau State, got a wind of their return to the state, met with them, and filed in this report.
For security reasons, we were not allowed to publicize names nor take shots of the students, but this was their arrival where they are putting up for therapeutic intervention. We were told that 4 females and 16 males from the University of Jos in Plateau State and the University of Maiduguri in Borno State had set out for a just cause, not knowing they wouldn't get to their destination. They were stopped, kidnapped, starved, tortured, and maimed. They spent 9 days in captivity, traumatized.
Quite a number of them wearing masks. I think about 10, 12 of them with assault rifles, proper, like these are guns we usually see in the hands of military men, and then seeing them being wielded by individuals on fixed masks and all. It was not funny. They just told us, oh yeah, into the bush. They had sticks, they were flogging us already. They just guided us into the bush there. After some 5-10 minutes walk into the bush, they asked us to stop somewhere, lie down. They retrieved our phones, collected our shoes. Some of us who had cardigans on, they took it off, and then that was where our journey began. That's on that Thursday evening. We trekked all through the night. We did not know where we were. We were just walking into the bush, barefooted. We walked up until, I think, if I'm to guess the time, I would say 10 a.m. the next morning. We were at the mercy of the weather. The rain was on us, the sun shined on us. We were beaten by fleas, just a whole lot. We didn't have food, we didn't have water. At some point, we just had to resort to drinking the water we see when the rain falls and gather on the floor.
The house officer with the students said they had lost hope in the country's ability to effect their freedom, as their release was too real to be true.
They just looked at us and said, the military men have arrested some of our persons and all, that we would have killed you people here. But they are not only arresting our people, they are arresting some innocent people who have done nothing too. So as a sign of goodwill, we are going to let you go. When they said, I thought it was a joke, because I was like, how do I trust these people's words? How do I take their word for it? So they say we can go.
It was time for some therapeutic interventions to avoid acute traumatic stress disorder, as some of them were already presenting with some psychological disorders.
Getting back here, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Jos, I would want to say a very big thank you to him. Yes, because before we could get back to Jos, he already made contact with psychotherapists, with psychiatrists, with the religious. They made a program for us to help us ease us back. They said he really understood that we've gone through a traumatic event and then they didn't want us to go back to our homes the way we came out. So as a way of helping us, they kept us in a place, a secure location. They provide for us everything we need, and then they brought therapists from that very day who have been coming to see us. I must say we've made significant progress given the way we came out.
Among the victims is this 600 level medical student who agreed to speak this way.
Putting everything together, we knew that it was God, but then the police really played their part, and then we felt very, very important. I think situations like these are things that gives you hope as a Nigerian, and when you understand that okay, your life matters to the government, it gives you this sense of patriotism to the country, knowing that yes, at least the government has done something, if not for anything, even if the welfare and other things, even if it doesn't cover everybody, but I think for us personally, we would actually want to appreciate the government for what they really did. And
One of the victim's mother also spoke to us.
I was very sad too. I couldn't even eat for 9 days. But now I'm very grateful. I give God the glory. I thank everybody that prayed for us. I'm very happy now. I'm excited. I can't say it all.
While they remain under the close watch of their healthcare givers, one would hope that their senior colleague, Dr. Ganiyat Popola, will also be released soon and that the security architecture in Nigeria would be improved upon. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyowi.
We'll be speaking with Dr. Kevin Kwashak, Chairman, National Association of Resident Doctors, Jos University Teaching Hospital Branch, on this. But before we go ahead and talk to him, let's reconnect with our correspondent in Abuja, Emmanuel Bagudu, to speak to us on the trial of the End Bad Governance protesters. Emmanuel, can you hear me now? All right, Emmanuel, thank you for joining us. Now, go ahead and speak to us on what led to the treason charges against the protesters.
Yes, you recall that several days ago, there were agitations that the arrested protesters should be arraigned and be tried properly, which that didn't happen. And then, of course, after so much pressure, perhaps, the police finally, arraigned them today before the Federal High Court Judge, Justice Nwite, the vacation judge. So the proper arraignment was made today of 10 out of the 124 who are currently in police custody. And then the police was actually, the defendants were actually able to, secure a date for the ruling of the application of bail to be heard, which is on the 11th of this month. It was a very crazy intellectual argument between the prosecutions and, of course, the defendants of the lawyers of the 10 different defendants. We had the likes of the Dashen Jew, of course, who actually standing in for Femi Falana, who is defending, and then 3 other lawyers defending the 10th, defendants. So the cases, what happened today was an application of bail. Of course, the defendants actually argued that their clients have spent a lot of days already in police custody and shouldn't be returned to incarceration, and so they should be granted bail. And then, of course, the prosecution didn't agree to that and still insist that they should be taken to Kuje or either Kuje or Suleja prison. That didn't go down well with the defendants, who actually argued very well, and then finally secure a date where the ruling for the bail application will be given, which is on the 11th of this month. Yeah.
All right, Emmanuel, do you know if the arrested protesters have access to their defense lawyers?
Yes, they had access to their defense lawyers, at least for what we can witness today. Just 10 of them, don't forget, they are up to 124, all drawn from some states across northern Nigeria, and of course, in Abuja. So only 10 were arraigned today. There were still 114 who are yet to be arraigned, but at least it's good news. This for starters. For the starters, 10 By the time they finish the arraignment of this 10, one will know the fate of the remaining 115. But for now, most of the applications that the lawyers actually made today was that arrested protesters should be allowed to see not just their lawyers, but their doctors, their physicians, as well as their family members, which was agreed in the court that will happen, at least. But for the meantime, the Honorable Judge Nwiti actually remand the accused at the Suleja and, of course, Kuje prison, respectively, pending on the 11th of September, where the final ruling on their bail application will be delivered. The hearing was done today, so on that day, it's only a ruling that will be given whether they will remain on bail or they will continue to remain in incarceration. Yeah.
All right, well, just before we let you go, Emmanuel, we know the trial is still in court, but what is the defense team actually saying about the proceedings so far, and especially when it comes to what it means for future protests and opposition voices in Nigeria?
Yeah, the defense argument is very clear that, of course, their clients are not terrorists, they are not committing any felony. They made it very clear, and then, of course, there are no any evidence presented to court that actually shows that their clients are terrorists, because what actually constitutes terrorists? They are there in the law books. They actually make references to the ACTA, Administration of Criminal Justice Act, and other extant laws that actually is responsible for nailing these protesters. But of course, that will depend on the wisdom of the court. Everything is discretionary. So the argument is very, very clear, and of course, it will continue on the 11th when the ruling of the application will be, the bail application will be done.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Emmanuel Bagudu, for speaking to us on this.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Now to a business-related story. A high-level tripartite committee has been established to oversee new capital being raised by banks in Nigeria's ongoing recapitalization efforts. The committee, comprising members from the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, will scrutinize the funds raised to ensure compliance with regulatory standards. This capital verification process is crucial for the clearance of the allotment proposal and the release of the raised funds, allowing the banks to complete their offer, that's the offer process, and strengthen their capital base. Sources indicate that these banks have collectively raised over 1 trillion naira from existing shareholders and new investors, marking the first set of funds to undergo the committee's scrutiny. Let's now bring you updates from the lingering fuel shortage experienced in parts of the country. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, has acknowledged financial challenges that may threaten the sustainability of petrol supply across the country. The oil giant faces a reported debt of approximately $6 billion to suppliers, which has led to supply agents becoming reluctant to deliver petrol. This situation has forced NNPCL to resort to stock rationing and plea with suppliers to maintain deliveries. Reports suggest that at least 5 vessels designated for Nigeria have refused to offload their cargo due to concerns over non-payment. The recent $300 million bailout by the federal government have proven insufficient to stabilize the fuel supply. The scarcity has left many filling stations dry, with long queues seen in major cities like Lagos and Abuja. NNPCL's Chief Corporate Communications Officer, Olufemi Shoneye, admitted the financial strain, stating that the company remains committed to its role as the supplier of last resort to ensure national energy security. Earlier, News Central's correspondent Bernard Akede was on the ground here in Lagos to monitor the situation with the shortage of premium motor spirit.
Excuse me, sorry. Good morning, sir. Please tell us your name.
My name is Wale Dosumu.
Okay. Wale, how long have you been here?
I've been here to 6. This morning to 6. I've been here to 6. We are still on queue. We don't know what is happening. What are we benefiting from government itself? Tell me what we are benefiting from government. We don't benefit anything. What we have has become another thing for us. I've been here last week Friday. I was at queue. Some Cars, some few cars ahead of me. They said fuel are finished. Since morning, I left the filling station by 2 o'clock. What are we benefiting from Lagos, from federal government? Tell me.
Okay, Wale, we know that things are, just like you said, what are we benefiting from the federal government? What is your most pressing need now? How is this, fuel crisis affecting you personally?
Do you know where I always come from? Mowe, 500. Ask me how much they are taking now. It's 900, 1,000. And we have no choice. We must enter because I'm going to work. Tell me, our salary have not been increased. I don't know. Let somebody tell me what we are benefiting from Lagos, from federal government. This is only where which we are benefiting from federal government by subsidizing it for us. Tell me. Let's see better. Let better people come.
Welcome back. Now we've been able to reconnect with Dr. Kevin Kwashak, Chairman, National Association of Resident Doctors, Jos University Teaching Hospital Branch, to speak to us on the freed 20 medical students that were kidnapped earlier. Hello, doctor. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you hear me, Dr. Kwashak? All right, so yeah, I can hear you now. Thank you for joining us. So can you tell us more about the freed kidnapped students, that's the medical students that were kidnapped from Borno and also Jos Plateau State?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to our listeners. Thank you for having me. Well, I think it's no longer news about the release of the 2019 medical students plus a doctor that was that they were kidnapped on their way to Enugu from Jos for a conference of Federation of Catholic Medical Students, that took place some weeks ago. It was actually quite a very difficult moment for everyone, particularly for us who know them in person, and they actually from our center. It was quite a very devastating moment for everybody. But I'm grateful to God and grateful to everyone who was involved in the process that eventually led to their release. And today, as I speak to you, we all have them back to us. They are all doing well, and we're trying so much to rehabilitate them and have them back into the society. Like you rightly said, they were a combination of both students from Maiduguri and from University of Jos. So we have 11 medical students from UniJos, one doctor from Jos University Teaching Hospital, and then the remaining 8 medical students were from University of Maiduguri. But like okay. I said, all of them were rescued.
All right, that's good news, Dr. Kwashak. But one other doctor, Dr. Popola, was kidnapped months ago, and she's still in the custody of these kidnappers. Can you go ahead and tell us why you think doctors are usually victims of these kidnappers? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, for Dr. Gania Popola, you are aware that we've been on 1-week warning strike that started last week, Monday, and we just suspended the strike this morning. Popola has been in captivity for the past 8 months plus, as I speak to you currently. When the strike was meant to push for two reasons, to push for the release of Ganiat and then for the release of the medical students. Fortunately, 2 days before the commencement of the strike, the medical students were released, but Ganiat still remained in captivity. And we decided to still go ahead with the strike because for us, the principle is all or none. It's either we have all of them back or we still continue with the industrial action. And I think I don't want to go into details of that now because of the security reasons, for some security reasons. The sensitivity of the issue is not one that would warrant us speaking so much about it in the public space at the moment. But what I can tell you is that from the reports we got the last 1 week during this warning strike, we've made significant progress. We've made much progress in terms of getting her out of captivity. The government is on top of the issue based on the report we got. They got the message clearly from us, and they've assured us that the same methods they've used to rescue the medical students, they are ready to also deploy those machineries to ensure that Ganiat is back. But it's quite unfortunate that a medical doctor has been going through this untold hardship for the past 8 months. It's quite unheard of. In this 21st century, with all the securities we have in this country, I think we shouldn't be talking about things like this. But like I said, the securities are doing their best. And I won't go into details of what effort they've made and what they're about to do, but just know that the strike has yielded results.
All right.
The 1 week warning strike yielded significant results, yes.
All right. Well, we hope and pray that, she's rescued unharmed. Thank you so much, Dr. Kwashak, for speaking to us. Away from that, South Africa is facing a growing crisis due to the rise of organized crime syndicates. Businesses in South Africa are being targeted by criminal syndicates dubbed protection mafias, and those who refuse to pay face an uphill battle to keep their doors open. This has created a climate of fear and disruption, undermining economic stability and public services. These groups are often linked to local business forums or criminal networks. The South African government and law enforcement agencies are aware of the problem but struggle to contain it, partly due to the deep-rooted corruption and fear among victims. These extortion criminals are also targeting pensioners and schools. As South Africa faces a high number of teenage pregnancies, the Stop Stockouts Project survey highlighted the contraceptive shortage in public health facilities. According to their report titled Contraceptive Supply Chain, Stockouts and Their Causes, contraceptive shortage and unavailability have become prevalent in the country, particularly in the Eastern Cape, Northwest and KwaZulu-Natal. The survey was conducted in intervals of 3 months between April 2022 and June 2023, which indicated that between April and June 2023, 36% of women said contraceptives were not available in 31 medical facilities in KwaZulu-Natal. The Eastern Cape recorded a 7% difference from KwaZulu-Natal because 29% of respondents stated that contraceptives were unavailable in 30 surveyed medical facilities. To discuss this, we're joined by Dr. Jess Russell, Principal Investigator, the Just Agency. She joins us from Cape Town, South Africa. Hello, Dr. Russell. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
What are the primary factors contributing to the shortage of women's contraceptives in South Africa? How do these factors intersect with broader healthcare accessibility issues?
So our research reveals the current as well as the earlier causes of contraceptive stockouts in South Africa lie at the national and provincial levels. Our findings identify poor national procurement planning as the main driver of contraceptive depletion as well as stockouts between 2015 and 2020. It's quite an interesting story here. What led to this major ongoing stockout? Poor planning in this case resulted from the Affordable Medicines Directorate, the Department of Health, and the Department of Women. Those are the main agencies, the national departments overseeing women's health care. And the poor planning resulted from these particular departments not anticipating a depletion in national stock due to the state donating contraceptives to an international randomized clinical trial that is well known called the ECHO trial. It was also due to these departments not anticipating market anxiety relating to the anticipated outcome of the trial, which is said to have examined the relationship between the use of the 3-month injectable contraceptive Depo-Provera and a potential increased risk of HIV. The ECHO trial concluded in 2019. It found that there wasn't a relationship between these two things. However, this poor planning related to not anticipating widespread contraceptive stockouts due to manufacturers halting production in anticipation of the trial results, a lack then of supplier competition, and a weakened national position to negotiate contracts. This impacted the procurement of contraception for several years in South Africa. In addition to this, the primary cause at the national level is provincial budgetary limitations, incompatible electronic information systems, poor management of payment ordering and stock systems, and inadequate human resources and storage.
All right,
These all
Dr. Russell.
contribute to the current stockouts that are ongoing.
All right, now, Dr. Russell, now in your analysis, what impact has the contraceptive shortage, had on women's health, family planning, and also reproductive rights in South Africa?
Well, so it's important, as you said earlier, the Stop Stockouts project has been conducting assessments of stockouts of contraception since 2018. Now, these current findings build on what we've been tracking since then, that there is a reported shortage of injectable contraception, and that is the largest and most consistent shortage that we have in South Africa. Read collectively over the years, our findings show that there's a crisis in access to contraception in South Africa. Arguably, this could have contributed to higher rates of adolescent pregnancy, as you mentioned earlier, and really poor planning that results in 5 years of limited access to contraception for women and girls is consequently a result of inadequate national leaderships and deficits in accountability and transparency.
Okay.
This points to a lack of prioritization of gender equality, sexual reproductive health, and this prolonged decrease in access to a variety of contraceptive methods, we argue, also indicates a departure by the state from a human rights approach to healthcare.
Okay.
These are very serious issues.
All right. Well, thank you for speaking to us on this, Dr. Russell. We appreciate you for your time.
Thank you very much.
In the world of sports, the Nigeria Football Federation has appointed Daniel Ogumodede and Fidelis Ilechukwu as assistant coaches to Austin Eguavoen ahead of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. The Super Eagles will begin their campaign against Grenada Ross Benin Republic in 5 days, followed by a match against Rwanda 3 days later. Ogumodede and Ilechukwu, renowned for their strong partnership, are expected to enhance the team's performance. This decision comes after the NFF's attempt to hire former VFL Stuttgart coach Bruno Labbadia was thwarted by tax issues. Eguavoen, who previously managed the Super Eagles in 2005 and 2021, will lead the team. Ogumodede and Ilechukwu's recent successes in the Nigeria Premier Football League are anticipated to boost Nigeria's chances in the qualifiers. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, here's another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Michael Lenin, 9 others plead not guilty to treason charges. We also told you that NNPCL acknowledges financial challenges threatening supply. Finally, you heard that criminal mafias target businesses and schools in South Africa. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen. Usman.